Well, I want to welcome all of our attendees, panelists, and listeners to what we think is an absolutely fantastic and stellar panel discussion on the challenging times that we are all facing with respect to getting our molecules from clinic all the way through to commercial. Again, we've got a great set of panelists here. In my view, and I'm sure you will all see this as we move through the panel discussion, really some true luminaries and doers. They've both seen it. They've done it. We've got a combined experience of over 150 years in pharma and life sciences on this panel. And one of the things I think that we've seen, while a tragic backdrop with the COVID-19 pandemic, I do think that the healthcare system and the ecosystem and what we do for product development and commercializing products absolutely can do amazing things. And as we face into what is still a murky and muddy economic stew, the ecosystem is very resilient, and it's relearning what it needs to do in order to be successful and to be strong and be prepared to thrive. So we're really looking forward to having a discussion with this panel and sharing their views with all of you about how we can move faster together to collaborate and innovate, even though those may be overused terms. We'll talk a little bit about what it means to these panelists. That there is a right way to do things, and maybe there's not the only way, but there is a way to do things, moving forward that has a focus on both delivering for all of our stakeholders, including patients, but also sustainability and corporate responsibility. And that there still is this opportunity for all of us to work together in a true partnership fashion to really bring innovation and products to life and solve the inevitable challenges that will pop up in front of us as we seek to bring more products and better treatments to market and change people's lives. We really want to thank the sponsors for this panel, Orientation Marketing and Expert Insights, for their sponsorship and their support. And I'll be your panel moderator today. My name is Kurt Nielsen. I'm a managing director with Expert Insights, and I'm looking forward to learning something myself from this panel. So we want to just start off with a couple of what I call speed rounds to grab some comments from the panelists. Then we'll kind of take a step back and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the meat of the topic. So first speed round here is what is each one of our panelists optimistic about for calendar 24 in terms of an outlook. So I'll take a volunteer. Who'd like to go first?
I'm happy to go first. Go ahead, Christian.
Sure. So I think what last year showed us was that we had a record number of FDA approvals, and back to sort of pre-COVID levels. So that was certainly something to be positive about. And I think the last few weeks of the year, the biotech stock indices also had an uptick, which has given some people raised hopes for a sustained recovery this year, albeit maybe slow, but nonetheless a positive signal.
Yeah, fantastic. Who'd like to go next?
So I think there's a continued focus on large molecules and biologics. So we're getting away from treating signs and symptoms and actually seeing companies march forward to taking care of the root cause for diseases and really impacting patients directly. That's exciting and happening more and more.
Very good. Haley or Dan?
Yeah, I can go ahead and go. I'm feeling really optimistic about the diversity of molecules that are coming through and the treatments that we're going to bring to patients across the globe for unmet needs over the last 20, 30 years. It's really exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually what's really exciting is it's really the decade of biology. And 2024 is, you could argue, is really, we're still at the beginning of that. And what that really means is I think that this is going to translate into really amazing new medicines for patients with unmet need. So I'm super excited to be part of the future. And I think 2024 is going to be a turnaround for the industry. And it's off to the races to create wonderful treatments for patients.
So it's always fantastic to hear the optimism and excitement that quite literally comes with the beginning of with a new year, but also no future is complete without facing into what maybe we think are the inevitable realities or the countervailing forces to what makes us so optimistic and be really energized about what we're about to do this year moving forward. So let's
Yeah.
also kind of do a speed round around on some things that maybe are concerning or worrisome in the next year or the next 3 years. So maybe we kind of take it in reverse order. So who went last goes first.
Okay, I can do that. Well, I think it's a combination of, I think, regulatory environment. It's we all heard about, we all know about the IRA and a variety of other issues, and a lot of difficulty with CMC issues in drug development. And I think that's going to continue to be a challenge for our industry, not only for the pharma services sector, which of course we're all a part of, but also for our clients. I think that part of the challenge there is that medicines are just more complex, and the complexity requires regulatory agencies to kind of catch up continuously. So to defend them a little bit, it's our job to try to help and educate and do the best science we can to make that regulatory challenge easier.
Very good. Haley.
Yeah, I think from my side, the unpredictable global economic challenges that kind of are stemming up around the world, and how will those turn out throughout the year? Will it impact our supply, our ability to get products into manufacturing spaces? We all experienced a lot of that during COVID, and we learned a lot. But as those challenges start to pop up in new areas, it brings a whole different set of potential risks moving into the year.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's go to who's next.
I think it's me, Kurt. So I think it's funding, right? So I think we saw those challenges in 23. I would like to hope that'll change in 24. But we're still seeing a lot of smaller companies that are trading at or below cash, that are working on really important molecules. And so there's going to have to be something that comes to fruition there. I mean, we're on the verge of JPM, where a lot of deals get done, a lot of science gets discussed, and a lot of company strategy. So I'm hopeful that we've seen the end of 23. We saw some interesting deals where I think companies will now have medicines get further. Early this year, we've seen a couple deals, so hopefully that accelerates, so we can get sort of the funding to those companies that need to develop these medicines.
Well said. Well said. Christian.
Sure. I think tying in what's just been said with also what Dan said at the beginning, I think there is a potential challenge that we might face in innovation deficit, because the smaller companies are more focused on the later stage assets that they have, and not the earlier stage assets. And major pharma are so much more reliant on picking up these assets once they've moved forward to, say, phase 2, to acquire when there's a lower risk. And therefore, as a function of that, and as a function of the increasing pressure from the IRA and the pricing pressures on drugs, I think maybe major pharma might be more focused on trying to get more value out of their existing assets, have life cycle management programs to sort of increase that runway. And I think the smaller companies will focus on where their investors are most interested in getting a return on their investment. So I do worry that there could be an innovation deficit in the forthcoming years, but we need to collaborate together to make sure that doesn't happen.
Fantastic. And I really appreciate the panel agreeing to do a speed round to kind of get some opinions and get some thoughts on the table. And we'll now take a step back from those comments and dive in with some questions, so that again, so our audience can get a much better feel for kind of the whys and wherefores around why I think, for those of us who are really been in this business for a while, it doesn't matter, newcomer, been here a long time, just there's so much to be excited about and so much to be motivated by. And it's always, for me, great to have part of the conversation, the things we want to keep our eye on, because to me, that ultimately makes sure that the ecosystem remains viable and vibrant, and we continue to evolve. And where we can, we deliver, revolutionary, life-changing treatments for people, right? But we've got to deal with all the challenges along the way to make that happen. So what I would love to do right now is give our panelists a little bit more time to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into the questions. So maybe what we can do is let's just take a volunteer who wants to go first to introduce themselves, and then we'll figure out the rest from there. This would be the only time I think a group like this would be hesitant to take the talking stick and introduce themselves. So how about we go with Haley?
Okay.
That's perfect.
All right.
Thanks, Kurt. My name's Haley Crow. I'm the EVP and GM of the Global Life Sciences business at Ecolab.
Very good. Welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go. I'm Dan Smithy. I'm the CEO of Saran Bioscience.
I'm
Hi.
happy to go next. I'm Bill Humphreys. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Alchemy.
Welcome, Bill.
I'm delighted to finish off. I'm Christian Jones. I'm the CCO of Nanoform.
Very good. If you're in Helsinki today, maybe a weather report would be helpful for those of us who are not familiar with that type of weather.
Yeah, I'm not actually today. I'm in Cambridge, UK, but it's still not great weather. But in Helsinki, it's about minus 14 degrees Celsius, not Fahrenheit, but yeah, which is pretty cold by all standards.
Very good, very good. As a typical American, I always appreciate the translation into the uniquely the uniqueness of Fahrenheit, while the rest of the world is in Celsius. But we didn't actually get together to talk about weather reports, so we will move on. So the next set of topics is going to be really around innovation, and in our preparation for this panel discussion to really kind of bring insights and value to the audience, we talked a lot about the importance of seeking and finding the right partner. Right, these are really big decisions. With a tsunami-like power to change the fortunes of both big and small companies. So we'll talk a little bit about that decision-making process and how it can be changed and improved, and some things to be on the lookout for as you navigate that very important process. It will also have an opportunity to touch on some of the inevitable challenges that we talked about in those speed rounds, but we'll also make mention of supply chain issues, right, that inevitably come up, and how we can talk more openly and more timely fashion about those challenges as they arise. But again, I think one of the really kind of important themes that came out of our discussions was, again, the importance of partnership, and I think you've heard all that in those opening comments from this group of panelists, right? The importance of understanding the problems that we're facing into, the challenges, making sure we've got all the right tools around us, and then actively working together in a collaborative and an innovative fashion to bring those solutions to bear. So with all that being said, let's move on to the kind of the first major set of topics around innovation, and maybe kind of one way to kind of get the audience kind of engaged here, and what we're thinking about is innovation can mean a lot of different things to different people. So in some contexts, some folks might say it's even overused, but really my question for the panel is, how would you define innovation as we move into 2024 and think about the future? And then we've got some follow-on questions there about what kind of things can we do to improve the innovation process today? Who's doing it well and why? And kind of just keep pulling this thread on the sweater from there. So somebody want to make some comments about how they think about defining the word or scoping the word innovation and what it means today?
Yeah, I'm happy to take a shot at it. I mean, I think maybe a way to start is, so why? Why do we need innovation in the industry? And I think the way I look at it from, Saran is, we're a drug development partner. We're very technology focused, but at the end of the day, we're trying to manufacture medicines for patients, right? And what we see is that the complexity of disease targets is increasing fairly dramatically and at an accelerated pace. And what that really means is, if you have a a target on a protein that's very hydrophobic. From a small molecule perspective, that's going to render that molecule probably insoluble in water. We can talk about what that means for exposure, but it's challenging. But beyond that, complex molecules are just going to require a lot of innovative technologies to get these things absorbed or delivered properly. Good examples, right? For small molecules, it's things like protein degraders, molecular glues. Those have molecular weights approaching 1,000 or even larger, and because of that, that makes oral exposure really difficult to do. And so, at Thron, we've really engaged new technologies to try to help our clients do that. Beyond that, we all are familiar with the fantastic success of peptides recently with the GLP-1s. There's even an oral version of that, believe it or not, Rybelsus, right? We're all familiar with that. And that required pretty significant technological innovation to get that kind of exposure to be acceptable. And then, of course, solid lipid nanoparticles, obviously the COVID vaccines, and then cell and gene therapy and the whole, tremendous range of complicated structures that have to be delivered there. So if you add all those up, drug development partners like Thron and you guys, we have to adopt new technologies to be successful for our clients and ultimately patients. We have no choice. If we don't be technology aggressive, we're simply not going to be able to deliver successful medicines as a group, right?
No, I think that's well. So somebody else want to kind of throw their hat in the ring here when it comes to talking about innovation, what it means to them? What do you think it means for the future?
Yeah, Kurt, I might like to add to that, and I guess just touching on what Dan's already said, but building on it further. As an industry, I think we spend close to $200 billion on R&D each year, and 50 drugs are what we can put on the marketplace. And that's shocking, right? When you think about other industries, the car manufacturers, and just pick any other industry, it's a really, really shocking statistic, and the return on investment is so poor. And obviously, it's because we're dealing with very complex biological systems and trying to make sure that we can develop the right drugs for them. But there has to be a way to be more productive, and I think from a regulatory perspective, we saw what could be achieved during COVID, how fast we could get a medicine to market if we all collaborated. And I think that's a really interesting aspect to touch upon from an innovation perspective. And also, Dan, you raised a really great point, nanoparticles. And during COVID, obviously that technology came forward, and now everybody's trying to do something similar in solid lipid nanoparticles. Because it's been proven. And I think we are in a very conservative industry. And I think we need to just be more creative. As an industry, we need to find ways to collaborate more with partners to drive innovation, because ultimately we're here for the patients. And, we are patients ourselves, and we have to remember that yes, money drives the industry, but patients are our customers. And if we can't innovate and if we can't create value, then the patients will be the ones that suffer, and that's us, and that's our friends and family as well. And if we think about the definition of innovation, you can do something creative, you can create value that's scientifically interesting, but the true value of innovation is if you can commercialize it. So there's been so many, innovations that have been, discovered, or new things that have been developed, but unless they can be commercialized, they really don't have as much value at all. And I think we have to find ways that we can all support each other when we've got exciting innovations to make sure that they do reach it to market, because ultimately that's where they're going to help the patient.
Very good. I think some excellent points made there around the coupling of productivity and additional and better use of and new tools and technologies, all to the benefit of a result called a product that changes a person's life, right? And there can be obviously all different types and levels and levels of innovation, right, that are needed in order to kind of deliver those three things. Want to just keep going on this a little bit further. Keep the topic open for Haley and Bill to comment on, but also feel free if you'd like to maybe comment more about who you think is doing innovation well, like who is a sort of a model or an aspiration that you may look to, or if you have some comments around given where we are today, with innovation in your respective industries and fields, what are some of the things that you think we need to do more of or do differently in order to be even more successful? So I'm going to turn it over to you, Haley, if you want to make some comments.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go off of what Dan and Christian were talking about, a lot of times there's a lot of focus on the upstream part of the process, and getting a molecule and a target through the early stages, but that commercialization bit and actually getting it to a patient, the scale up bit, needs a lot of innovation right now, as we're seeing. We've talked about the diversity of molecules, but actually getting us to a point where you can scale it up and profitably has created a challenge. And I think there's a lot of need for the look at the downstream process and enabling all of us to get products to the patient faster. And I'll second that with, and in a way that meets, the wave of the future and sustainability and doing it the right way. So are we looking at water recycling? Are we looking at recycling our single-use technologies? Really focusing on the downstream process, not just to make a drug, but to do it in the way that is good for us, good for the earth, and the future for all of us from a patient perspective, really. It all ties back in the circle of life.
Yeah, for me, I think it's fantastic. Even in my advanced years in this industry, I still love all of the reminders around the holistic approach that we need to take these days, and to think about sustainability and responsibility. So I think just a fantastic point that you're raising there. So I really appreciate that. Bill, you wanna bring us home on the topic of what is innovation and what we can do better? And
Sure. I mean, and as I listen to Dan, Christian, and Haley, the word that I think they all talked around but didn't mention is time. Right. And so as I think about it, we have a lot of great work being done in labs and things to benefit patients. But for those patients, the clock is ticking. They have a disease, they have a need. And so when I think about innovation, I think about how either we're partnering, working together, how the complexity of developing medicines, as both Dan and Christian talked about, has been ratcheted up. And so what are we doing to fight the other side of that, which is time? And so the faster we can get these products to patients, the faster we can move them through the system the right way, and helping partners. And look, we're all in the service business. So part of what I think about for innovation is how do we do it nimbler, better, faster, in a high quality way to make sure that our partners and those that depend on us are successful and ultimately the patients win.
Completely agree, Bill. If I can just follow up real quick, Kurt, I think, we at Saran have really put a lot of effort into trying to figure out how to get our patients ultimately to the point where they have medicines faster. We've talked about how it costs a ridiculous amount of money to develop a new medicine, right? And takes on average 8 to 10 years. That paradigm has to change. We're being pushed from a regulatory perspective, government is pushing us on price, but patients, just like you said, Bill, I mean, they really can't afford to wait 8 years for a new medicine. And part of that, when we talk about innovation, some of the innovation is actually on the innovation complexity scale is relatively simple. We just think about developing medicines that are first in human, for example, at the very beginning, that are scalable and manufacturable all the way through the clinical development process. That can save a huge amount of time. Don't have to do bioequivalency studies. I don't have to thrash with validation. I have something that's going to be easier to insert into a commercial plant. And so we've started to really adopt those concepts very, very early. And I think it takes some innovation to do that well. It takes collaboration. You have to convince your partners or clients that this is worth doing. But I think it could really pay off. And so we think that it sounds kind of perhaps simplistic from an innovation perspective, but I think it can have major impact. And it's also more sustainable. We're not thrashing for 8 years. We can cut that in half. Think of the impact on the overall energy use, environment, the waste we generate. I think all those things are kind of correlated to going more efficient and faster.
I would just add to that as well, if I may, Kurt. At Nanoform, we sort of describe ourselves as a medicine performance enhancement company using nanoparticles, and both on small molecules and large molecules. But the areas where we see the real need for speed more than anywhere else is in oncology and in rare diseases and orphan drug development. And their customers might come to us with a problem child where they've got a bioavailability issue that they're asking us to solve. But what sometimes they don't even realize until they've got their molecule through clinic is that they're not going to have time to optimize formulation afterwards, because they need to just move quickly. And they have fast track development of the product. So we very much try to sort of work with our partners to try and see how much can we optimize early on in the development of the formulation before it goes into clinic, so that that molecule and that formulation can move quickly to support the remainder of the development programs. So I think time is critical, but it's more critical in some areas than others.
Again, some fantastic points made, across the panel around the importance of new tools and better use of those tools and technology, improving productivity, being aware of time and saving time and reducing time, and being aware of what we're spending in terms of not just dollar resources, but other resources, including people and materials. And so I don't think any topic around innovation would be complete without at least maybe at this point of our dialogue, a super speed round about the impact, whether or not you think computing power and AI and machine learning is enabling to what we just talked about, or is it a distraction? So without kind of opening it up to a longer answer, it's really what I wanted to just kind of go around the panel real quick and say, do you see AI and ML and its cousins and relatives as enabling to achieve these goals that we just talked about, or do you see it as a distraction? So I'll go to you, Christian. You're on my screen right now. So we'll start with you, and then we'll go around the panel real quick.
So from my side, I think AI has been around for a long time. It used to be called soft modeling from a physics perspective about 30 years ago, but now everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, and lots of companies are being generated around AI. But the reality is, it can be very valuable, and it really can be enabling if we do things smarter, faster. We don't do the experiments that are not going to work. We do the experiments that are more likely to work. We can be smarter about our drug development, for sure.
Very good. Bill, you have a perspective on this?
I align right with Christian, right? I think it's something that as a tool I don't think it's a crutch, but I do think it's a tool that we can use to sort of pick up time where we need to. That being said, I think that the interpretation, the analysis, and ultimately decision making, it doesn't do that. If you let it do that, I think it's dangerous. I think that taking that information and maybe crunching down some of that timeline and using that to make better, faster decisions makes a ton of sense to me.
Great. We'll go to Haley and then Dan, and then we'll go on to the topics of how do we do better together? How do we win together, and partnership? But let's close out this speed round. We'll go to Haley and then Dan.
Yep, I'm in the enabling bucket as well. I'll talk about it at the process side, being able to measure the amount of water going through as a base, and then using big data and AI to actually optimize your process to move faster and cut some time out is huge. And you get the benefit on the sustainability side in the long run. So I'm in the enabling bucket on the process side.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is just another tool in the toolbox, personally. We have been using computational tools for a long, long time in the industry. The one thing I will say to watch out with AI is that it's only as good as the data set, right? I mean, ChatGPT, right, relies on the diaspora of the internet, right? That's where it gets all its data. And so we all know the challenges with that. Machine learning, I think there's huge benefits to looking through really complex data sets and teasing out trends and structures that actually can have impact on all kinds of things, from process to discovery. I think the one watch out is AI takes a huge amount of computational power, which takes a huge amount of energy. So I think it should be used, the right way and not just blindly. I think we'll probably end up going down chasing some things that don't make sense, but absolutely it's an enabling tool in the toolbox if used wisely.
Very good. So we've got about 8 to 10 minutes left. So what I'd like to do is we'll pivot to the partnership conversation, and I'll go to you first, Haley, and then we'll go to Bill, Christian, and Dan. But again, we've had a lot of conversation around how do we do better together? My words, not yours. But partnership. We talked a lot about the decision-making process around choosing a partner and then making a partnership work. So with that kind of as an opening, right? I kind of ask the panel, what does make a good partnership? What are kind of some things the audience should be thinking about when they go to select a partner? But just like anything else in life, how do you make that partner work? Like what's critical to that? So kind of in any one of those dimensions or one you'd prefer to go, let's get your partnership. So Haley, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could go on it. I'll go back on the innovation front. So as we think about all the things we talked about in terms of the challenges that are coming with the diversity of molecules and how do we get it faster to market, I think good partnerships and innovation, if you have a 1 + 1 = 5, and you can move faster to get new technologies to solve problems. I mean, for me, that right there is the ticket to a good partnership. And we have a good strategic partner in Repligen as an example. They are a phenomenal innovator in ligands. We're a phenomenal innovator in beads. We said, hey, guess what? We come together. We can get this faster to market. We can get our customers moving faster. We can get the drugs to market faster. And so this makes sense. And it's been great in the making, and we've launched products faster than I would have alone, and I think than they would have alone. So you've got to look for the areas where you each bring differential value to the table, and collectively it is a 1 + 1 = 5.
Well said. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I think about, it all is foundational to me in one word, which is trust. And so as service providers, these companies and partners that come to us are trusting us that we're going to do our job well. And we have to earn that trust every single day. So that's whether you're moving nimbly, your ability to communicate, or to be very honest about what you can and can't do. And ensure and maybe even help them get a partner that can do that, and recognizing that you're not all things to all people, and knowing exactly what you do well, and making sure you're loud and proud about that. But then when you're not, bringing other people to the table to make sure that ultimately we keep the patient at the forefront of our mind, and we're delivering that solution for that partner, that pharma client that needs that solution move forward. Because let's face it, the medicine development is getting more and more expensive. It's getting more and more complex, and they're going to need service providers to help them get there. And if we can do that in a way that's collaborative, and picking up on what Haley said, that 1 + 1 = 5 through the right partners at the table to deliver for them, then ultimately patients win. And I think that's why we're all here.
Fantastic. So Christian and then Dan.
I totally agree with both those points, and they would have been my points had I not gone first. But I think one of the other aspects is communication, right? In good partnerships, you need to have very strong communication, and where things really fall down or break down in partnerships is when the communication isn't good enough. And I think sometimes when you have challenges, which, let's face it, all projects and partnerships do have challenges. It's where those things go wrong and you're able to rectify them and you're able to work together. That's when you form much stronger partnerships. And that builds that sort of trust and that transparency and that communication. So I think, at the end of the day, we're not AI bots, we're people, and people buy from people. People, we build relationships, and partnerships are the same. They're relationships, really, between different companies. So communications at the heart of that.
Very good. Dan?
Yeah, absolutely agree. You guys all stole everything I was going to say, but I couldn't agree more with everybody. I think, going back to trust, what's the old saying, right? Trust is hard to win, difficult to maintain, easy to lose, and almost impossible to regain when you've lost it. And so one of the ways that, we work really hard internally to be really partnership oriented internally as well as externally. So our culture is one of constant working, dealing with communication issues as they come up internally. We really try to maintain a close partnership with all our clients. And, I think as Christian was saying, right, things go wrong, right? And if you're really open and honest with your clients, when things go wrong and you solve the problem together, obviously that really is a big way to maintain that trust. And so, but I think externally as well, partnerships, as we do these more complex things and try to innovate more, it's not going to be us and the client. It's going to be us and other service providers and other stakeholders that all need to work together to solve these much more complex problems that we're trying to deal with, which is to deliver these amazing medicines. So I think that partnership approach is going to extend out, not just on a one-to-one basis, but much more broadly, I think, in the future.
Excellent. I just to give the the panelists a little bit of a warning here. We'll go in reverse order for closing comments. Where we got a little under 5 minutes to wrap up the dialogue, but it's absolutely been just an amazing dialogue and discussion, and I hope the audience has been able to really capture and digest really all these insights. And so I do want to thank our sponsors, Orientation Marketing and Expert Insights, for sponsoring and supporting the panel. But let's go in reverse order. Another speed round here on some closing comments, maybe some advice or parting thoughts for the audience about calendar 24 in the next few years. So we'll go to Dan, then Christian, then Haley, and then Bill.
Yeah, I'm an optimist, and first and foremost, in a very risky industry, right? You could argue that this is, developing a new drug is probably the riskiest thing that humans do, and you have to be really optimistic. And I think, I'm so excited to really continue to try to promote really novel concepts into the industry. But I think, as a lot of folks were saying, we've got to be doing this with our eyes wide open about how difficult it is, how challenging it is, how much impact it can have on multiple aspects. But ultimately, if we keep the patient in mind, I think, and we're optimistic, I think we can do great things. Humans are fantastic at doing amazing things like going to the moon and so forth. And so I think making great medicines is completely within our power to do. So I'm excited about the future.
Very good. So thanks. So we got a couple of minutes left.
So I'm also very excited about all the new modalities, new molecules being developed, and of course, with that comes complexity. And we have to adopt new technologies to overcome some of that complexity and to try to enable those products to be developable and druggable molecules for the patient. And ultimately, that's what it's about. It's about the patient, and that's why we're here. And let's remember what could be done during COVID, and let's try to maintain that collaborative nature in the industry to try to work together to create value for patients.
Excellent. Haley?
Yeah, I'm in the pure optimist mode as well, and for 24. And I'll close up with, I think collaboration is going to be the key to the future. There's a lot of new challenges out there, and working together to solve those challenges is going to be key to getting the drugs to patients as fast as we possibly can.
Fantastic. All right, Bill, bring us home.
It's patient impact, right? So one thing we try to do is have our clients come through and we talk about impacts in patients. And so as we all go about our day to day, every person you see is probably dealing with something, and you work in a field where you can make their life better, help them live better, live longer, and have higher quality lives. So what we do is really important, and I'm glad to be part of this industry and with such great colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Just grateful for this panel. Grateful for the time you spent preparing for today, because nothing great happens without preparation. And really a fantastic, fantastic group of individuals here. So thank you so much for your time, because that's the most valuable thing we all have is time. So really appreciate that. And want to once again thank our sponsors, Orientation Marketing and Expert Insight. So thanks to the panel and to our audience. Make it a great day. Thank you very much.